for Monday, December 14th, 2020. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Dudley,
Mike Dudley here.
Donahue, no, we'll come back. Nanadovich,
I'm sorry, I was muted. Chuck Donahue here.
thank you. Nanadovich,
Mike Donadovich here.
Davis,
Ayla Davis here.
Blake,
Jason Blake here.
Burke,
This is Matt Burke. I'm here.
Vaughn.
Tom Vaughn, I'm here.
Okay, let the record show that all 7 council members are present. I'd like to make a motion at this time to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of council for the city of Garfield Heights for Monday, November 23rd, 2020, as resubmitted via email by our clerk. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let the record show that the motion was made by Matt Burke, seconded by Mr. Nanadovich. Barb, can you take a roll call?
Burke,
This is Matt Burke. I vote yes.
Vaughn,
Tom Vaughn, I vote yes.
Dudley,
Mike Dudley, I vote yes.
Donahue,
Chuck Donahue, yes.
Nanadovich,
Mike Donadovich, I vote yes.
Davis,
Ayla Davis, yes.
Blake,
Jason Blake, yes.
Okay, let the record show that the regular meeting minutes for November 23rd are adopted with 7 yes votes. We'll move on now to written communications to council. I understand we have a letter, Barb.
yes, we do, sir.
Okay, we'd go ahead and read that letter.
All right. This letter is from Janine Jastrabowski of 5349 East 131st Street in Garfield Heights. Dear Garfield Heights police officers, I am writing to thank you for the sacrifices you make every day so that our lives are better, for going above and beyond the call of duty in effort to prevent crimes from occurring in our community. Despite how dangerous your work is, you always have time for every call from concerned residents because you stand firm to keep the peace and to fight against crime. I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate your efforts in protecting my family and neighbors on a daily basis by maintaining the stability of our city streets. Once again, thank you for your service on the front line of danger for us to be safe. Please keep up the spirit. The residents of Garfield Heights need you more than ever. Stay safe and strong. Sincerely, Janine Jastrabowski.
Okay, is that the only letter we have, Barb?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
We'll move on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Vaughn.
we had talked about, I would like to make a motion to dispense of our regular business meeting for December the 28th of this month.
Okay. Motion made by Councilman Vaughn to suspend the regular meeting of council for December 28, 2020. I will go ahead and second that motion. Barb, can you take a roll call on that?
Vaughn,
Tom Vaughn, yes.
Dudley,
Mike Dudley, yes.
Donahue,
Chuck Donahue, yes.
Nanadovich,
Mike Donadovich votes yes.
Davis,
Ayla Davis, yes.
Blake,
Jason Blake, yes.
Burke.
This is Matt Burke and I vote yes. So our regular meeting of council for December 28th has been canceled. If there is any special meetings that need to happen, I will let you know. I know we will have one coming up to handle some financial situations for the city that need to be registered by the end of the year. Are there any other committee reports? Ms. Davis, did you have one?
It's kind of a funny, I would just like to report on behalf of the Communication and Technology Committee. We do have laptops now that I believe we're all using this evening.
Pretty much, and thank you for that. Thank you for heading that up, because you can definitely tell we're having a much better communication on this Zoom call tonight.
And I do have one other statement. Now, since we're actually facial, do we necessarily need to continue to say our names before we vote? I know we were doing that because we were doing it via free conference call. So I believe if we're on camera, we really don't need to state our names.
I don't have a problem with it. The only problem is when you go to transcribe it via the audio doesn't have our faces on there. But I mean, we can do it through the video at any time also. So how did the rest of you guys feel about it?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think that's a good idea, but I think for the public record, we should have people knowing that a certain individual cast a vote for a certain piece of legislation by name. So it's never a question as to how we voted. It'll be on record. If somebody said you didn't vote yes, I go back and say, hey, I'm there verbally casting my vote, you know? I really would like us to keep doing it by name recognition as to how we vote.
Well, let me pose this to you. You know, when the clerk does say, you know,
Yeah.
she does ask for the vote for us by name, and then, you know, of course, we come back with, this is Matt Burke, I vote yes. I mean, I think what Shayla is saying is we can just say yes, and we're still on record because the clerk asked for us by name. I mean, if you guys are okay with it, I'm okay with just saying yes. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, I don't mind, but it's going to take a while for me to adjust. I've been saying by name for 13, 14 years now.
No, Mr. Dudley, that's not what I'm saying. We only started saying our names because we were on free conference call. Barb still says our names and we vote like
Correct.
in person. That's not changing. What I'm saying is now that we're on actual video and we're looking at one another, it's still going to be recorded the same. I'm saying we can still do it. I'm just saying it's necessary that we say Shayla Davis, yes, when the clerk is saying Shayla Davis and I say Shayla Davis, yes. I don't need to restate my name, is all I was saying.
No, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with that, but I would say be patient with me because I've been stating my name so long. Sometime I will slip up and still say my name, but I have no problem with that, Councilwoman. I have no problem just saying, yeah, you know, she's saying Mike Dudley and I'm just saying yes. So I have no problem with that. It's good to me. It's all good.
I think we should just leave it up to each other individually. So
No, I'm good with it, Mr. Chairman. I'm good.
Whatever you're comfortable with, just go ahead and vote the way you're comfortable. Is
Okay.
that fair? Is that good? Okay. Let's move on to the reports of the mayor. Mayor, do you have a report for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have a short report tonight. I just wanted to let everyone know that the snow has melted. The leaf trucks are back on the streets and we will continue to pick up leaves as long as weather permits. So be patient and we'll get around to everybody with their leaves. With that, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. 2020 is without a doubt the craziest, weirdest year that I have ever experienced. And I'm really glad to say that we're getting through this thing all right, probably better than projected. And I'm looking forward to 2021. I'm looking forward to the vaccine and I'm looking forward to people paying taxes again. So we'll be all good. And the last thing I wanted to say before I get into tonight's legislation is go Browns. This is a big game and we wish you well. Tonight's legislation, ordinance number 84 and 85. Each year we hire a company to make sure our ordinances are in compliance with state and federal law. These two ordinances, 84 and 85, are for 2019 and 2020. Ordinance number 92, 2020. This outlines the criteria for applying for the Community Relations Board. Ordinance number 93, 2020. We have an 8.5 acre piece of property where the old service garage was. To maintain the guidelines of the state fire marshal, we have to split off 1.6 acres of possible contaminated land and agree not to put any structure on it that needs to be built into the ground, such as a basement. It's fine to have a sports field, roads, things like that, as long as we don't go into the ground. This has been a deal that worked out between our law department and Buster, which is the government regulation committee. And I certainly urge that. And lastly, the resolution 2020, I believe is ICP, the group that has turned City View into Highland Park, has purchased the 20-acre Home Depot property adjacent to where Giant Eagle is, just south of where Giant Eagle is. That's 20 acres. That's landfill property that the city took over probably about 8, 9 years ago. When we took this property over and met with the EPA, we were told just to get it ready to build on, we'd have to put about $1 million of EPA work into it to get it buildable. At that point in time, we were just sort of hoping that somebody would take it off our hands. And quite honestly, we were even looking at the possibility of giving that 20 acres to somebody so it would be off our hands. ICP, in negotiations with myself and the law department, has agreed to pay us $300,000 for that property. And that property will be where the road goes through to Rockside Road and any other development that they deem necessary. So I think it's an excellent deal for the city. I think it's a win-win for everybody. And this will certainly generate getting that road through to Rockside, which can help not only our city, but the entire region. With that, Mr. Chairman, again, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and you have my report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Do any members of council have questions for the mayor on his report this evening? No. Okay. Let's move to communications from citizens on tonight's agenda. Will the clerk please read the rules?
Comments shall be strictly limited to brief statements not to exceed 5 minutes, with comments limited to legislation on the current evening's agenda. No citizen shall speak more than once.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment specifically on what's on the agenda this evening?
Yes, this is James Fruits. I have a question.
Is it specifically on tonight's agenda?
Yes, about the legislation for tonight.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Did I miss?
I know we sound like a broken record, but we need you to do that.
James Fruits, 13600 York Boulevard.
Thank you.
Is there? Did I miss? Is there? Section 136, is that covered in tonight's agenda?
Yes, that's actually an ordinance number 92-2020.
Okay, got it.
If you like, I can email you the agenda for tonight if you'd like.
Sure, that would be great. I appreciate that. And is that that will be read in its entirety before it's acted on? Is that correct? Tonight, and I guess my question was this: from hearing from the last meeting, were there things ironed out about how to apply to be a member of this committee? That's my main question about that legislation.
Yeah, I believe, I don't know if it's written in here how to apply, but I believe we've made it clear to make sure that if you're interested, that you send a letter stating your interest and your qualifications. And also, if you have a resume, we would appreciate that, directly to the mayor's office.
I guess maybe more directly is there any language in there about how long the application procedure or process will be open? Like, will residents have 30 days? where it will be posted, some things like that?
I do not see that in the language of this piece of legislation. It just really makes that 136, it just makes the amendments for that. Obviously, you wouldn't have that in there because you're looking at something that's going to be reoccurring every 3 years. So we could post it as council and give you 30 days, but it doesn't necessarily have to be written within 136. If you know what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah, I'm not looking for certain dates like by December 12th or anything. I was just
Right.
wondering if it was prudent to put in there how long the application process should be open whenever it is open.
Yeah, I believe that's something that we would do whenever we would post for this committee to be formed. So like we would do that this year, let's say, coming up, once this gets voted on today. And then 3 years from now, when it comes time to appoint another committee, then council would have to put that out there again, and the city would have to put that out there again, that you have up into a certain date to apply. It doesn't have to be written within chapter 136.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. This is Melissa Leonard, and my
Okay.
address is 4893 East 84th Street.
Okay.
I just
Ms.
had a question for the mayor about that property you were just talking about. I'm just curious if you know what type of chemicals are under the ground, and or has the EPA investigated that? My concern is whatever is under the ground, is that seeping into our water supply and so on and so forth. So I'm just, from an environmental standpoint, curious what is under that property and how hazardous is it to all of our health?
If I can respond, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, Mayor Clover.
Melissa, that property has been inspected by the EPA more times than I even like to talk about. It has been for the last 9 years. Every time somebody has come in to try to take that property over, the EPA has put out rules and regulations what has to take place. Those rules and regulations amount to, and I'm telling you the truth, probably up to $2 million just before you put a shovel in the ground to protect and make sure everything is fine. To tell you exactly what's in the ground, I certainly don't know that. That landfill was there in the 60s. And, I don't think anybody knows everything that was in there. But the borings they took and everything else they took give them an idea of what gases are involved. And I can tell you that this company and the EPA has worked out a agreement on how to protect everything. And that agreement's probably cost over $1 million just to work out that agreement. And that's for the entire City View property and that 20 acres. So, although I can't tell you what's in the ground, I can assure you that the EPA and their experts and their engineers have thoroughly investigated it.
Can I ask one more question? Was there two properties? You said behind the service garage? That's the property I thought you were talking about. At first, was there, so there's two, the City View Center, and then there's another property behind the service garage?
Okay, and I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the Home Depot property.
No, that's okay. I should have clarified. I'm sorry.
That's all right. If you're talking about the service garage, that's where we had the service garage many years ago, the old service garage where they had gasoline pumps, just like we have at this one. And when you have gasoline pumps, they consider that property contaminated for quite some time. So what we wanted to do is identify how much of that 8 acres was contaminated. And it came up, I think it was 1.3, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that area. And they have determined that the only thing that would be a problem is if you dug into the ground. And that is what we assured them that we wouldn't do, and have signed an agreement not to do it. But that was all about gasoline pumps.
So no report has been released as far as if the gasoline or what's in the ground is seeping into the water supply? They haven't investigated that at all?
Absolutely. They investigate every single thing you could possibly imagine. You don't have to ask them to investigate. They do all of that. And that's why they have come up with what we need to do to protect that property. And, and again, like I said earlier, they investigate so much, it's a good thing, but it's enough to drive you crazy because they want to turn over every rock and pebble. And I guess it's a good thing, but it does get frustrating.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mrs. Bolton, you said you have a question on the Communications Committee, ordinance number 92, 2020.
Yes, my name is Renee Bolton. My address is 5749 Turney Road. My question is about the Community Relations Committee. From the last several meetings that I've been on, there was never any concrete qualifications that was listed for that committee. And following up to what James Fruit said, as far as I remember, the only thing that was put out about that committee was just that anyone who was interested should submit a letter to the mayor to let them know what, that they're interested and why. But there was never anything said as far as what specific qualifications you would be looking for. And also, it was discussed previously about making sure that the community was made aware that this committee was being put together. What has been done to ensure that the members of the community are being made aware of this opportunity with this committee?
Mr. Nanadovich, did you want to address that?
Yes, I would like to. Ms. Bolton, when we had talked about it at previous meetings, the only qualifications that we asked of the citizens that wanted to apply for the position on the committee, that they have the best interest of the community, not just to say they were on a committee. That's why we requested a resume or some kind of paper that says, this is what you plan to bring into the meeting as a person on the committee. We just don't want somebody to say that I'm on the committee and never attend any meetings or never put any input. We would like people that, have the best interest of Garfield Heights. And I think that was emphasized many, many times during the conversations that we had on chapter 136. The other part of your question, what was that?
It was regarding letting the community members know. But before you answer that question, I just have a follow-up to what you just said. I'm still unclear. Because if you're asking for people's resumes and you're asking people to let you know what they're bringing to the table, are you going to then put together a set of guidelines or expectations by which you will select the members of the committee? Or are you simply just selecting people that you want to be on the committee?
We would be looking at it for the very first time and making the selections there and looking through the reasons that they want to be on a committee. That would be the governing factor that the mayor would be looking at. What are they bringing? We're playing this by ear because it's the very first time that we're doing this. And I think that people coming in and saying, I've got experience in human relations, I have experience with healthcare, I have experience with negotiations, dealing with people. I think those are the kind of people that we'll be looking for, not just somebody that we want on the committee. I think that's got to stop. That's the good old boy network. And we don't want that. We want people that are going to be on there, that are going to be contributing people, just like I had said. I don't know how to define that any better, but that would be up to the people the person that's making the decision, and that would be our mayor. The timeline, I have no idea when the timeline and how to get it out to community. Once this passes, if it does pass tonight, the resolution or the ordinance, this will go out in the neighborhood news, and it'll be put out on the scrolls for meeting times. The word will get out to the public that it's out there through various media. And one of the media is what we're doing now And the other one, I'm sure Elle from the Neighborhood News is on this call, right?
Did I lose you, Mr. Nanadovich?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, if I can just, add a little chime in here. I would say this is a volunteer committee. This is, residents will volunteer for this committee. So if they feel they are qualified, and if the individual feels they are qualified, then they should submit a letter stating as to what their qualifications would be for this committee. And I would fully expect them to be familiar with Chapter 136. And I would fully expect them to be familiar with the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we're talking about. Keep in mind, once they apply to be on this committee, it doesn't stop there. The mayor can select them, but keep in mind the council still has to, approve them as part of the committee. So there's some checks and balances there. But to put out, this is what we want, I think that is, when you're dealing with a volunteer group, you're asking for a lot of where people will to apply for this. I think you have
members of our community.
I would, with that, I think that it may be a good idea to place this back into the legislative committee and host another meeting and have some more dialogue on this. What do you think, Mr. Nanadovich?
Again, I would like to reiterate that looking at the ordinance and chapter 136, it tells what the committee is supposed to be doing, what its agenda is. And if you feel that you can comply with the agenda and you're qualified to talk about the issues that the committee is supposed to be addressing, I think that is the guidelines. Those are the guidelines. Can you handle the different aspects of what we're going to try to establish? Housing, race relations, diversity in the city jobs, things like that. Those are the guidelines. And if you feel that you could contribute to that in a knowledgeable manner and bring something that is substantial, I think that is your requalifications. We're not going to know anything now because I don't even know how many people have applied for this position. At last count, it was 2. And it's, again, upon ratification tonight, if we do that, if we do go that far, I think that's when the communications come in and it goes out. And if you feel you're qualified, apply. I mean, we can't sit there and say, oh, you should apply or you should apply. This is volunteer, and volunteer is the key word. But I think it's going to be open to the public, and the public, if they feel they're qualified and they put in a resume, that'll be looked through when it goes over by the mayor, because we're only picking 6 people. The mayor is the 7th person, and he is a voting member. But I think the qualifications are, do you think you can contribute to the specifications in chapter 136?
Anyone else have any?
Mr. Chairman,
comments?
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor Kalova, I just wanted to say that we have received, or I have received some people that have applied for the position or is asking to be put on this committee. They talk about what their background was. They talk about what their vision is. They talk about how important they think this will help the community. It's been some very interesting applications. There's only been a few, but the few that I have are very interesting. To answer Ms. Bolton's question, do we have on there, you need a social degree or stuff like that? No, we don't. But I think that sort of segregates out some people that have a passion that want this community to go forward, but don't have the degrees necessary to have a doctorate or something like that. So I'll do it whatever way anybody wants it, but I could tell you that the few that I have gotten have been very impressive. Thank you.
Ms. Kalova. Ms. Davis?
Mr. Chairman, I kind of wanted to just say, in the chapter 136 that we're going to vote on tonight, we spent our time in these last few legislative meetings mapping out the qualifications. So this kind of goes back to Ms. Bolton's point, and I can't remember who it was at the last meeting about wanting to be able to see this stuff, because this is probably why the question is arising. It's actually in the legislation what the qualifications are and what the scope of the duties are. That's what we have gone over in those last several meetings, hashing it out. And it doesn't say that we need to submit a resume. And I believe at the last meeting also, Mayor Kalova stated anyone who had previously applied, they should reapply so he would not be seen as doing anything biased once we voted on it. And so if we're going to vote on it tonight, I'm thinking, I know we talked at the last meeting about, that's how what led us down the rabbit hole of the whole, communication and getting things up on the website, is having that electronic application process on there. I believe Mr. Vaughn talked about accepting it via email as well as it being mailed in for those going to the post office. But what they're asking for, I believe, unless I'm incorrect, we've already spelled that out in the qualifications and terms here, and what the scope and the duties are once we, vote on it tonight, and then they'll be able to apply for it and hopefully can get uploaded. We definitely got to figure out a way to get the communication to people, because I think that's how we're ended up going backwards, because it's right here. We all can see it, but they can't. And we've had so many meetings going back and forth and talking about it. I think it just kind of gets a little flustered. And I don't know if I'm answering your question, Ms. Bolton, but it seems like that's what you're asking, and we have it in front of us, but and Mr. Fruits, I believe, and Ms. Leonard were the three that kind of asked about that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Vaughn.
I do think that when we come to vote on this piece of legislation, maybe it would be good if Barb were to read 13602, the term and qualifications of members of the committee, and 13604, the duties, and then maybe everybody have a better understanding. How does that sound?
We can do that. I'm on the fence. I kind of think we ought to make a motion to put it back in legislative committee or place it in legislative committee to discuss this further. Because now, I mean, here it is. It's no different than the last meeting. This is something that's brought up after the fact, and I want to be fair about things here. So, it's not something we have to do right away. We want to do this right. That's what I thought. We wanted to actually do it the right way. So if it means that we need further discussion, I'm all for further discussion on this.
Sheila, Matt, or myself can put that back in legislative committee. I mean, just make the motion. One of us will second it.
I think that's where we need to go tonight based upon what was brought up. I think we need to.
That's fine.
Make that motion and let the votes go. And then, Ms. Bolton, hopefully you can be in attendance and can help us with making sure that, we have the right qualifications, or if we need to add something, we can add something. This way it's fair and it's something that's done right when we go to do it. So I would feel better myself if we place this back in legislative committee. But
Mr. Chairman.
We'll let everybody vote. Yes, Mr. Nanadovich.
As chairman of the legislative committee, putting this back in legislation, I have no problem with that. But I think Mrs. Bolton's main concern is she wanted to see what was in this chapter 136, and she's not getting a copy of it.
I emailed her a copy.
Because it's right here. We all can see it.
I did email a copy of it.
And we've had so many meetings going back.
I didn't know that.
I think it just
Again, I am unaware of that.
And I don't know.
Being ignorant of the facts right now is part of the problem. Not ignorant, but not knowing all the facts. Posting this on the codified ordinance sites and posting it on the websites is all well and good, but it's got to get there first. Because right now, the only way that people know what's going on with this legislation is attending the legislative meetings. And that was the key to everything. This hasn't been posted other than just Friday when the legislation was posted in the sites where codified ordinances are put. I have no problem as legislative chairman putting this back in committee, because there are 4 of us on that board. But if you want to do that, I have no problem. We could discuss it further, but I'll leave that up to the committee on when it comes to the floor. I'll leave that to you as chairman. If you want to put it in committee again, we could vote on it.
I mean, I think if we make that motion, we can vote on it when that motion comes up on the floor.
Correct.
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say one last thing? I do agree with Councilman Nanavich in terms of what Ms. Bolton and everyone else was asking for. I think the bigger issue is
What is that noise?
someone's phone is ringing. It's not ringing.
I don't even know how that's happening.
James Fruits has his hand up.
I see that. So did Mrs. Jastrabowski, or Miss Jastrabowski. I just don't know where all that noise came from.
I think that But I think what my point in what I'm saying is I think we've spent a lot of time on this, and I'm not against us having further discussion, but we hashed this out in all of those meetings before.
Right.
And it's here, we have it.
Well, it's right there in front of you.
It's a different conversation. It's not necessarily whether this is right or wrong. It's more about the community having access to the information. So really, it kind of puts pressure on me and you as the council president and me, the committee chair. We've really got to figure out how to get this stuff uploaded and get it done sooner rather than later. This is the second meeting now that this is the primary issue. The miscommunication is simply because people don't have access to the communication. And that's what they're asking for, not what we've spent the last, I want to say maybe 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks even, working on this. We've hashed it out already. That's my input.
Okay. Ms. Jastrabowski, you did have your hand up. Do you still have something you'd like to say?
I just have a couple questions about the road development on the parcel that is going to be sold to the land bank. Do we have any plans or anything on the road construction? Because I've looked on MoDOT and I haven't found it. Does the city have any information on it?
No, it's actually in planning with the ICP people. They're actually rendering the there's three different ways they could run that road, and they're just looking at it. Oh, is that correct, Mayor? Did I answer that correctly for?
Yes, actually, they have drawn up some renderings, very rough renderings, to show the 3 different locations that road could go out on. But nobody, ODOT or anybody else, has not been involved, as far as I know anyways, in the talks at this point in time. Once they decide which is the best route to go, I'm sure at that point in time, they'll bring ODOT in to make sure it's good. But they have to purchase property yet. There's quite a few things they have to do to get that road through. But this would be the beginning of it.
Is it going to be for residents to use, or is it going to be more of an industrial area?
No, it's actually going to be a public road.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
I was just
It'll
curious.
be the extension of Transportation Boulevard. It'll still be Transportation Boulevard extending to Roxanne Road.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I just keep hearing about the road, but I haven't heard a lot about the road or where it's going. So, and speaking of roads, Fairlawn and 128th, thank you for paving it. It's paved. It looks beautiful. So thank you. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Fruit, you have your hand up?
Yes, sir. I'm I hate to be the contrarian all the time, but Councilman Burke, I'm really confused as to your behavior the last meeting and this meeting. Why wasn't the legislation declaring racism a public
Mr. Fruit,
health
that has
crisis?
nothing to do with that.
No.
Our agenda tonight. It was
Councilman
passed.
Burke,
Mr.
can
Fruit,
I finish?
That resolution did pass. I hope you're aware of that.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
Okay.
And what I'm aware of is that the mayor voiced displeasure, and rather than send it back to legislation like you're recommending tonight, you just said, I think we should amend it and pass it right here rather than send it back to the legislation. And tonight you're saying, let's send back to legislation something that's already, Ms. Bolton's question is answered in the legislation about the qualifications. It's in there.
Well, the way that democracy works, Mr. Fruits, is that you make a motion and people vote on that motion. And when they vote on that motion, that's how it goes. I mean, if I made a motion tonight to either amend this piece of legislation or put it into legislation, isn't that fair to let every council person vote on it, or is it different?
So what I'm asking Councilman Burke is, why didn't you do that last time? Why didn't you do that last time? And
because to be honest,
if I could finish my statement.
Sure, Mr. Fruits.
to be honest,
Mr. Fruits, you're muted. I don't understand.
it said the host muted me is what my screen said.
I did not mute. You saw, I did not mute anybody.
Yeah, I'm just telling you what the screen told me. Councilman Burke, what this feels like is it feels like this benefits you, because then if we send this back, you'll hear me out.
Okay.
I feel like this benefits you because if you send this back to legislative meeting, there's not another meeting this year. You guys said there's not another meeting this year for the council. So that means this legislation wouldn't get passed till January 11th. And then if we're giving residents 30 days to apply, then at the time, Mayor Matt Burke gets to pick the council, gets to pick the committee.
So
And
this
so-
is a conspiracy, is what you're saying.
No, Councilor Burke, I said this seems like this benefits you by putting this back into committee. And I'm saying, I don't think it needs to do that. I'd like to see council pass this tonight.
Well, then I will not make a motion tonight to either amend or place a legislative committee. We can vote on it tonight, but I did not want Mrs. Bolton's concern to go unaddressed. I hope you understand that.
I do understand. I appreciate that.
So is that all you had?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to know. I would like to know the difference between last time
Well,
not sending back and this time you recommending to send it
I
back.
can address that because last time there was a opinion as to the language that was in that resolution. Okay, and so to be fair and to be rather the voice of reason, I made that amendment. You know, you need to ask yourself a question too, because if you go back to that resolution and you look at the way that it was worded, that city council and the mayor or city council and the city should commit to eliminating preferential treatment for the majority. That's what it said, and that's what we took out. What happens? What's the conversation going to be like when Black people are the majority and we have to eliminate preferential treatment, Mr. Fruits? Then what? Is it unfair then? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I can't tell you how many phone calls over what the amendment was and how they felt that that was fair because of the fact that the city is changing. And the city is definitely
President?
changing, and you know that. But what
Mr.
is the
President?
conversation going to be like then when that happens? I mean, this resolution isn't even on tonight's agenda, and I don't understand why we are even talking about it.
Exactly.
So with that,
Right.
we'll move on because it
Off
really is
track.
not on tonight's agenda, and it should not be talked about on tonight's agenda.
But
You're
it
more
had
than
to
welcome.
do with tonight's. It had to do
It
with the
has
resolution that
nothing
was
to
on
do with
tonight's agenda.
Mr. Fruits. You brought
Sure,
it up and it was out of
it does,
line.
and you still haven't answered my question about why
I
it's
did
different.
answer
Why
your
you didn't send
question.
it back? You didn't answer why you didn't send it
did,
back to
because-
legislation.
Because as a legislator, it was my opinion that we should amend it. And I felt that 4 people in our council agreed. We got the votes to amend it that night. Did we not? Did it not get amended by vote? By the people, by the representatives that the people elect? Was that not the case? Did that not happen on
Yeah.
November 23rd?
Yes, you're correct. It
Okay,
happened with a
thank you.
4-3 vote, and the 3 members that didn't vote for it were the people who put the legislation together.
I can't help that, Mr. Fruits, but now you're out of line. I mean, that piece of legislation.
You
has
asked me
already
the question. You asked me the question.
Well, you're the one.
We're getting
asking me
off
the
track.
question. Absolutely, Mr. Fruits. Thank you. Now we'll move on. Does anybody else have any comments on tonight's agenda? If not, we will move on to ordinances and resolutions, beginning with ordinance number 84-2020. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance number 84-2020, sponsored by Mayor Vic Kolova, co-sponsored by Councilman Nanadovich, Burke, Vaughn, and Donahue. an emergency ordinance to revise the codified ordinances by adopting current replacement pages pursuant to section 17 of the charter.
Taken up.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to consider by title. Will the clerk please read the, or clerk, please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
This is Matt Burke. I vote yes.
Vaughn,
Tom Vaughn, I vote yes.
Dudley. Dudley,
You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, I vote yes.
Donahue,
I vote yes.
Nanadovich,
Mike Nanadovich votes yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Okay, on ordinance number 84-2020, let the record show that under title consideration, there are 7 yes votes. We've already suspended the 3 reading rule on this. Or no, actually, this is the second reading. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adopt. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
This is Matt Burke. I vote yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanadovich, yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that ordinance number 84-2020 passes with 7 yes votes. We'll move on now to ordinance number 85-2020. Will the clerk please read the title?
ordinance number 85-2020, sponsored by Mayor Vic Kolova, co-sponsored by Councilman Nanadovich, Burke, Vaughn, and Donahue. An emergency ordinance to revise the codified ordinances by adopting current replacement pages pursuant to section 17 of the charter.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to consider by title. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanadovich, yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Okay, let the record show that ordinance number 85-2020 under titles consideration had 7 yes votes. I would like to make a motion on its adoption, beginning with Councilman Burke.
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that ordinance number 85-2020 passes with 7 yes votes. We'll move on now to ordinance number 92-2020. Will the clerk please read the title?
ordinance number 92-2020, sponsored by all of council. An emergency ordinance amending section 136, Community Relations Committee of the codified ordinances of the city of Garfield Heights.
I'd like to make a motion to consider by title. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanadovich, yes.
David,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that ordinance number 92-2020 under title consideration had 7 yes votes. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that under ordinance number 92-2020, under suspension of the 3 reading rule, there are 7 yes votes. And on its adoption, beginning with Councilman Burke.
Burke,
This is Matt Burke, vote yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanadovich, I vote yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record reflect that ordinance number 92-2020 passes with 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 93-2020. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance number 93, 2020, sponsored by Mayor Vic Kolova, co-sponsored by Councilman Burke, Nanadovich, and Dudley. An emergency ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor or his designee, to enter into an environmental covenant with the state fire marshal with regards to permanent parcel number 546-07019.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to consider by title. Will the clerk take the roll?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to waive Rule 24. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanadovich votes yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that under waiver of Rule 24, there were 7 yes votes. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanadovich votes yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that under suspension of the 3 reading rule, there was 7 yes votes. And on its adoption, beginning with Councilman Burke.
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanadovich votes yes.
David,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that ordinance number 93-2020 passes with 7 yes votes. We'll move on now to resolution 22-2020. Will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution 22-2020, sponsored by Councilman Jason Blake, co-sponsored by Councilman Matt Burke and Councilman Michael Nanadovich. An emergency resolution recommending the mayor enter into an agreement with Industrial Commercial Properties LLC, DBA Highland Park Transportation 2 LLC, for the sale of permanent parcel numbers 543-09002 and 543-09003.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to consider by title. Will the clerk please make a roll call vote?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Let the record show that resolution 22-2020 under title consideration had 7 yes votes. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to waive Rule 24. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote? Hello?
I'm sorry, Burke,
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Nanavich votes yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake.
yes,
Let the record show that under waiver of Rule 24, there were 7 yes votes. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Bert,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake.
yes,
And on its adoption, beginning with Councilman Burke.
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis. Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Blake,
yes,
Okay. Let the record reflect that Resolution 22-2020 passes with 7 yes votes. That concludes our ordinances and resolutions for this evening.
Mr. President, this is Jeff Jerome from the legal department.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. President, I believe we still have to waive the three reading rule for the first 2 pieces. I know it's the second reading, but if we're not going to go the full 3, I still think we have to waive both of those. I got a message from Law Director Riley, who was having a connection issue. So if we could waive, I think before we proceed, I think we do have to waive those.
Okay, let's move back to ordinance number 84-2020. I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 reading rule. Will the clerk please take a roll call?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake.
yes,
Let the record show that ordinance number 84-2020 stands adopted and waive the 3 reading rule. Ordinance number 85-2020. I'd like to make a motion that we waive the 3 reading rule. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Burke,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dudley,
Yes.
Donahue,
Yes.
Nanadovich,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Blake.
yes,
Okay,
Okay, let the record reflect that ordinance number 85-2020 stands adopted with the suspension of the 3 reading rule. That concludes our ordinances and resolutions for this evening. We'll move on to comments by citizens. Will the clerk please read the rules?
comments shall be restricted to any problem a citizen has, which has previously been submitted to his or her councilperson or to the city hall department directly involved. If submission of a problem to a city hall department or councilperson is made, and there is a lack of service rendered in this regard, the problem may then be presented during comments from citizens at a future meeting. It is the intention of this rule that no request of a first nature is presented on the floor at this time. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. No citizen shall be heard more than once.
Is there anyone wishing to address council? Ms. Bolton, you have your hand up. You may proceed.
Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead, Ms. Bolton. If you could state your name and address again for the record.
Renee Bolton, 5749 Turney Road. I just have a question. We've previously discussed transparency within the city with elected officials within the city. And I'm very confused as to why We have not had any discussions whatsoever regarding the mayor resigning or retiring his position. I'm not even sure if he's retiring or resigning. And what's supposed to happen from here? How will the community members know, like, what's the process? If his term is not up, what happens from here? How does his position get filled? Basically, what happens, and why is no one saying anything about it?
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond.
Absolutely, Mayor Kalova.
Ms. Bolton, as of this time, I have not officially resigned or retired. I've had a lot of discussions about it and a lot of talk about it, and it could very possibly happen. But officially, I have not resigned yet. And when I do it officially, it'll be in the paper and everybody will publicly know about it. But I don't believe I should make it public before I'm 100% sure. But I know you can understand that. If in fact I do leave, which is a very good possibility, the president of the council would take over my position, and he would take that position and keep that position until the next election, which would be this coming November or November of 2021. So, and then there would be a regular election for all the people that want to run. But if I leave, then he will take my position until November.
And to clarify, Ms. Bolton, if I in fact decided, hey, I didn't want the position, it would go to the president pro tem to be able to take that position of mayor, which would be Councilman Nanadovich, just so you know. So we're just patiently waiting to see what happens. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fruit, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. So I
need you to state your name and,
yes.
and address again, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
James Fruits, 13600 York Boulevard. I know that this issue may anger many because it deals with a prior council meeting. I'm not sure why that was such an issue that angered so many earlier in this meeting. But as I watched and listened to the last city council meeting, I was again very deeply grieved that Miss Hazel Feeney said what she said at the last council meeting, with no comment from the mayor, the councils, and especially the council president, as you being the one running the meeting. What she said was, part of what she said was, stop raising these Black children thinking that the rest of the world owes them something. Raise them as human beings, not always including the color of their skin. We all have the same opportunities growing up. It's up to you to make those opportunities available for your children, as I have done for myself, and this racism will stop. She also mentioned reverse racism. And that is racist language that's allowed on our city council floor. And my question is, why was she not corrected? Why was she allowed to say this with no response, especially the part about not raising Black children thinking that the rest of the world owes them something? I get corrected every time I call into a city council meeting. So why was this not addressed? My question is, do you as the mayor and the council persons agree with her? The council has shown that you guys are not willing to police yourselves by allowing racist comments from Councilman Donahue, and you saying that this is a matter of the people. If they wanted to recall him, and there has been nothing else done. Mr. Donahue, to this point, has not apologized for racist comments. He's only apologized for using a curse word. And now I see that racist comments are being allowed on city council floor, and this all just leads to more distrust about this conversation. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Burke, and several other council members have said many, many times that you have to represent the residents on both sides of this issue facing our community. So my question is this what you're referring to people? Are you entertaining ideas from people like Ms. Feeney who think that if Black parents taught their Black children differently at home, that racism would be gone. Is that what you're referring to when you say you have to listen to people on both sides? And so I'm wondering why that hasn't happened. And I also would like to have an update on the training that has been talked about for city council and for all of the city, and just an update on where that training is on implicit bias.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mayor Clover. Can I respond?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Fruits, nobody said they agreed or disagreed with what Ms. Feeney said. I don't believe it. Certainly didn't happen when I was there. She is a resident. She has the right to state her position, just like any other resident, just like you've been stating your position for the last 3 months, which I totally disagree with. But you continue to state it and nobody comes down on you and tell you our disagreements. I don't understand where you're coming from. Earlier today, Ms. Bolton had a question. We were going forward with legislation. Ms. Bolton had a question that was very legitimate. And so we responded to her as a resident that if she felt there should have been something else in there, maybe it should be discussed further. But you continue, you totally disrespected her. You didn't count what she said. It was only counts what you said. You need to get it finished first. Think about it. You said, Mr. Burke, you're doing this. Why are you changing? We responded to Ms. Bolton. Had she not said anything, this would have passed without any discussion. But as a resident, she has a right, like you, to voice her opinion, and we have to respond to that. And when you're talking about people saying racist things, you have been on this council meeting for the last 3 months telling me that I'm a terrible leader, telling me that I'm racist because we don't have a board that has black and white on it, a board that has nothing to do with anything. But you continue to say that, and we're supposed to say, yes, sir, Mr. Fruits, what else would you like? I think you're more of a problem than you are a solution. And quite honestly, I think it's getting a little old. And am I being defensive? I'm being defensive for everybody that's on this meeting today because you disrespect everybody in this council.
All the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I've never called you racist once.
You referred it on many occasions.
No, I've never called you racist once.
Okay, Mr.
No.
Fruits, that's enough. Anybody else have anything they would like to make comment to council on?
So you're not going to answer my question?
Mr. Fruits, I will address you in my miscellaneous business. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they would like to speak on?
Hi, this is Melissa Leonard. I have a few things I'd like to speak on. My address is 4893 East 84th Street, Garfield Heights, Ohio. So I have a few questions and then kind of a follow-up of what James was just talking about. So my first question is, I know in the communications meeting, there was some discussion on Weldon helping to create a website. Just kind of curious if there was any update on that. I noticed that the meeting for tonight still wasn't posted on the website. So still hoping that you guys can sort that out, hopefully work with Weldon and getting that up to date. So that's my first question. My second question is, I'm wondering if anyone has an update on where the city stands with the COVID cases. In particular, how are police officers doing and paramedics, if they're having big increases in cases, and also how our hospital is doing, whether or not Marymount has a big influx in cases and how they're holding up during all this. My third question is about the whole retirement discussion as to whether or not you're retiring or whether or not you're resigning. I guess the confusion there lies with the fact that it was released on some levels. I know Mr. Nanadovich did tell me that you were retiring or resigning. So I'm just kind of curious, if it hasn't been released, then why has it been released? And maybe that's causing some confusion on everyone's part. And when it does get released, how will we know it's the real release and not just the pre-release? So I guess there's some confusion with that. Again, goes back to communication. And then the last thing I will say, in regards to what James Fruits was just speaking of, I think it is kind of like a double standard if, you guys are kind of confronting what he's saying, but not confronting everyone that you don't agree with. So it is kind of a double standard and unfair as a citizen to be treated that way. So if you're going to treat one person that way, you kind of have to treat everyone that way. And that just goes hand in hand with being equitable and equally treating everyone the same. So I know these discussions kind of get heated sometimes and people tend to get angry and take things personal, but we have to move forward. And in order to do that and treat each other with respect, we have to listen openly, but also gently and kindly, correct things when they're not, loving and accurate. So that's my little 2 cents on that. So hopefully you guys can answer those 3 questions on Weldon's PC, a COVID update, and just more of, I guess, a comment of when the information is released about the mayor's position, when it's really official.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Juan.
I would like to address the COVID issue. You would like to know about the police department and the fire department. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes,
And
police, fire, paramedics, all of that. How are they? Are they really affected by it, or are they, holding up pretty well?
First of all, Ms. Leonard, that's a HIPAA rule there. Okay, we can't give you that information. Okay. As far as Marymount Hospital, that would be their information to share. They are not a city-owned hospital. They are a private-owned hospital. You would have to get that information from Marymount Hospital. For us to give you statistics on how many people have COVID that the police or fire are dealing with, again, that would fall under the HIPAA rules. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes, I'm very familiar with HIPAA, but my I guess, general question is, are they severely affected? How is our police force, paramedic force? Are we short-staffed? Are we hanging in there?
We're very short-staffed. But as to give you facts and figures, we really can't at this time. And they change daily, But to say how many paramedics we have out and that type of information, we really can't share that information.
So you have it, you just can't share it, is what you're saying?
Well, it's a HIPAA violation.
To share it, but you do have it.
We know who's been out, yes.
Okay. That's all I was just really wondering.
Coming from the hospital background, I'm very familiar with these HIPAA rules and stuff. And you've got to be very careful of what could happen. This is a federal law. So, okay, and if you have any questions about Marymount, I would suggest you call their PR department and see what information they could give you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
okay.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dudley, go ahead.
I wanted to mention to her, as Ms. Leonard reach out to me tomorrow, because some people is not aware, as of November, I was appointed to Cleveland Clinic's Marymount Hospital Board of Trustees. I will be able to provide her with information that's limited to provide to her. So if she give me a call tomorrow, I most likely can answer that question, but it would have to be tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, did anybody else want to respond to Ms. Leonard?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Barb Byro in the Finance Department.
Hi, Barb.
Oh, good evening. In response to the COVID questions, our Human Resource Manager, Jeannie Sowers, has been the point of contact regarding any COVID that has affected any employee in the city of Garfield Heights. If the resident would like to give a call to her tomorrow here at the center and ask for Jeannie Sowers, our HR manager, she would be able to answer any questions that she legally can answer her in regards to the staff here at the city of Garfield Heights and our first responders and things like that. the steps we've taken to protect our employees, the steps we've taken in reporting our COVID, in our reporting our cleaning, following the CDC guidelines along with the Ohio Department of Health and the Cuyahoga County Department of Health. So I would suggest that the resident contact, it's 216-475-1100 and ask for the human resource manager, and she will be able to give her any information that she legally can give her in regards to COVID. Again, and again to Weldon PC. Weldon PC is not a vendor for our website. Our website is managed in-house by our IT manager. Our IT has currently gone under a server changeout for all our servers, and we're installing a virtual server. We're installing an email server and 2 other servers within the city of Garfield Heights. So at this time, our main concern is getting those servers out. We do have someone on staff currently, part-time, helping us with that. If you have any questions regarding the website or the updating of it, feel free to give me a call tomorrow at 216-475-1504, and I will go over any website changes or anything like that. We are currently working with President of Council Matt Burke to get the information out to the website, but the web information can't get to the website if it's not given to the proper people in order to post it on the website. So at this time, we're in transition here. We're doing the best we can to get the information onto the website. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me tomorrow, and I will answer any question that I can, or direct you or direct it to the right person to get the information on the website that you want. Those were the 2 issues involving my department. And again, if you have any questions, you feel free to reach out to me tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Bolton, you have your hand up again. You know, we have rules, but I will go ahead and break the rules and let you speak again, even though we're not to let people speak more than once. I will probably hear about it from every council member that's on this call, but go ahead.
Thank you. I raised my hand again because my first was a question about the status of the mayor's and his position. And I did not give my general comments that I wanted to give. So I thought I would do that separately so as not to confuse the 2 or mix up the 2 issues. So that was why I didn't say what I wanted to say the first time. I just wanted to address the mayor. But thank you for giving me another opportunity to speak. All I really want to say is regarding the letter that Ms. Feeney read during the last meeting. As a person of color in this community, it was heartbreaking to hear a member of our community say the things that she said. And the reason I'm addressing it is because optics are everything. So when you tell Mr. Fruits or anybody else, well, we don't necessarily agree with her. If you don't say anything, the perception, the optics are that you agree. And when Mr. Dudley spoke out about his children, because Ms. Feeney said, you know, that if Black parents would raise their children better, they wouldn't be approached by the police, which is completely inaccurate. He spoke out about his children and raising his children to be respectful members of the community. And that's fine, that's great. But it's our children too. Like, not my 6. We have 6 children who have been raised in this community. Not one of them has ever committed any kind of crime. ever. And yet that has not stopped the police from approaching my son because he looked at him wrong. That has not stopped the police from approaching one of my sons, and I have 5 boys and 1 girl. That has not stopped the police from approaching my son, pulling him over because as he drove by, you looked at me a certain kind of way. It has nothing to do with how you raise your children. And I am here to tell you that as a mother of a 26-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 16-year-old now, a 14-year-old, and 2 12-year-olds who have never been in trouble either in school or out of school, who have graduated from college, who have jobs, who are being productive members of society. To have someone come on one of the board meetings and say the things that she said about people of color and have none of you say anything to correct that, optics are everything. That is what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Bolton. Ms. Jones, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Lenine Jones, 13204 Eastwood Boulevard. I wanted to piggyback off of that. I just wanted to say that I grew up in a impoverished neighborhood. I lived in the city of Cleveland. I went to City of Cleveland schools, and I think that Mrs. Feeney's her comment about Black people have the same opportunities that everyone has may be true. We may have the same opportunities. However, when I went to school, I had old tattered books. When we did get new books, they were new to us books. They were not the newest edition. So I wasn't learning the newest information. I didn't have the newest education. When I had my children, they too started in Cleveland City Schools. We moved out to Fairview, and they wanted to move my kids back a grade, all 3 of my children back a grade, because they were not up to par with Fairview City Schools because they were in an impoverished neighborhood that didn't have the same quality of education that some of these suburbs, including Garfield Heights, has over, the city of Cleveland. So I think the comments that she made was ignorant to the fact that she doesn't know what really goes on in these cities. And maybe she should take some time to find that out. But what I find really, really disturbing is that council didn't admonish her comments because they were so tone deaf and out of touch with who we are as a people. And to think that the Black community is the ones that's causing all the problems and that we have all the crime is, I don't have a word for it. That's a good word. But I do want to say that before there were Black people in this community, there was crime in this community. So it's a matter of proximity. There's crime everywhere. And it doesn't have to point the finger at Black people and how they raise their children, because there are plenty of Black people across this nation raising their children right. That doesn't mean that, that if the police should stop them just because they're a Black child or a Black person. And that's the message that we're trying to get out, is that, we support the police, but we support them when they are not treating us unfairly. So I would say to her that maybe she should educate herself on the Black community and get a little bit more involved in the Black community to find out, to understand what she's saying when she's talking to us. And I will ask the council, when you hear those dog whistles, that you address them. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Is there anyone else? Okay, we will move on to our miscellaneous business. Will the clerk please read the rules?
This involves the business of council in the legislative function. Any other problems should be directly dealt with by the department involved. This area of the agenda shall be limited to legislative business, ward business, lack of attention to ward problems, and so forth.
We'll start off tonight with Ward 1 Councilman Michael Dudley. Mr. Dudley, you have the floor. Mr. Dudley, you have to unmute.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you,
Yes.
Mike.
Well, I did test positive for COVID-19, and I've been really, really sick and had to go to the hospital as well for a day from COVID-19. And I wanted to mention to the two women who talked about the dog whistles. I tell you, I have noticed the emboldenment, especially in the last 4 years, that it got to the point that nothing surprised me. I do address issues, and I do address them in different ways. And I did not agree with the comments, but my mind was really set on the piece of resolution as far as racism is a health hazard. And that was more concerning to me that night than anything else. But what I want to mention too, I'm proud to say that I was, like I said earlier, I was appointed to Cleveland Clinic's Marymount Hospital Board of Trustees. And I had several meetings, because we meet several times a month since the month of November. But I have never seen a hospital that is really strong on diversity. They are keyed in on diversity. Take that for granted, that they are. They also understand that what we call the underprivileged, as far as in the Black and the brown community in the inner city as well. And they are working on that to ensure that they can provide healthcare in the areas where normally would not be seen, where people wouldn't be able to get tested and other things. But I want to say once again, I'm proud to have been appointed to that position and everything like that, and that they reached out to me, and I did accept that. I want to also say, and I'm gonna cut it short this night today because we are coming up on Christmas time. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And I tell you, COVID-19 is nothing to play with. Anybody know me? I'd go everywhere with a mask. Nobody has come in our house who did not live here since the month of March. Family members come outside, they drop things, we talk to them through the door. We have no inside visit, nor do we go in our children's house. We talk to them from the outside, and that's how we visit our grandchildren. I tell you, people, you got to watch yourself. And just because you got your mask on and you're doing everything right, that do not mean that you will not get sick. You still can get sick. Somehow the thing is so deadly, it finds a way to get around your mask. I clean my hands going in the store. I clean my hands when I came out the store. My wife wiped everything down when we brought in house outside the door before bringing it in the door. We did everything absolutely right. And I wanted to tell the lady, I understood, you know, the concerns about children, our children. In Ward 1, you notice I would never say constituents. Everybody say my family. When I say my children, I'm talking about all the children in the Ward 1. It's a little different. But we have raised 9 children. Our last 2 graduated this year. All of them were raised in Garfield Heights, but they attended the Cleveland Public School District. And all 9 out of 9 has graduated. And we currently raising 3 grandchildren we picked up 2 years ago. So I can understand the concern. But there was a time when we had problems as far as anybody had concerns about a police matter. I used to get calls, and I never had a chief that would not be willing for me to bring the people in, and I went with them. I didn't send them in by themselves. I went with them in the meeting. to find out what went wrong and what we could do to resolve it and hold somebody accountable if they have to be accountable. And if you have a problem like that, you feel free to give me a call. And that's what I say. But you got to make sure that it's two sides to every story. And I'm gonna be honest about that. We have some problems. I would never doubt that we have some problems. But if we don't talk about it and we don't work on it, we're not gonna resolve it. We cannot turn our back to them because they do exist. And the biggest thing today is a lot of people do not understand the Black culture. They think they do because they live next door to you. And that's not it. How many times have you had that person over to your house? How many times have you sat down and had lunch with somebody? Everybody think of you a neighbor. They say, hey, you're my friend. I got Black friends. And I always say I got friends. When people start breaking it down, my friends are Black or my friends is white, then they are doing it based on nationality.
Is that all, Mr. Dudley?
He's frozen.
It looks like he locked up.
Okay. If he comes back on, we'll have to give him back some time, but let's move on to Councilman Donahue.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I had to go to my phone. My internet went to crap. First, I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to everybody. I'd like to thank Michelle Daniels. She's with the Abundance Love Community. They had the outreach. They delivered Toys for Tots this weekend, yesterday, actually, Sunday. And I had the opportunity, she called me and asked me if I'd like to deliver some, and I said yes. It's a great foundation. They do a lot for the community. I'd also like to thank the service department for their quick action on Tuesday, the 1st of December, getting the snow plows out and cleaning up all the streets. I'd like to throw out there that I want to thank the residents of my street. I live on a very short dead end street. Actually, there's only, I think, 14 homes on this whole street, but all the residents got out there and with their shovels and cleaned the streets, cleaned the street up, but so the cars could get through. And I just wanted to thank them publicly. Other than that, Mr. Dudley, if you can hear me, please take care of yourself with this COVID. My wife had it. She got over it, finally. I just lost a very good friend this past weekend. I've known him for 27 years. He's from Missouri. He got the COVID, went into the hospital, and his respiratory system, kidneys, and everything just failed. And he passed away on Sunday morning, Saturday morning, about 1:30 in the morning. But Mr. Dudley, please take care of yourself. And everybody out there, if you get close to somebody with COVID, please get checked. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Nanavich?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. First off, I think to say the best thing about 2020 is there's only 17 days left in it. Kayla, this computers, the clarity of the sound and the imaging, fantastic. At least I'm not breaking up this week so everybody can hear my wonderful voice. Thank you. And with these resolutions we're putting forth and ordinances, I believe we're moving forward. It's not a magic wand, chapter 136 or systemic racism, but it's a start. And We got a long road to travel. I hope it's a quick trip. I hope we can find solutions that are amicable to all the residents of Garfield Heights. I think that it's about time it's happening. There's some changes we got to make. There's some things we have to get used to. But I think, like I said, we're moving in the proper direction. I also would like to thank Michelle Daniels for the opportunity to do some delivering of gifts from the Abundant Love Community Outreach Program. It's a nonprofit that Michelle runs. The smiles on the faces were well worth the trip. It wasn't very long, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, but it was well worth the trip, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And Mr. Dudley, the way people talk about, this child, that child, you are the best father I've ever seen. You've got some of the best boys that I have ever seen that turned into young men and young ladies. And I've known Isaiah and Jeremiah, I believe his name is, the other young man. All you had to do was look at them if they were getting a little bit out of hand. And those two young men they toe the line. You're a good father. I really believe that, you and Jean. And my condolences to Jean on her loss of her sister. Let's see, where do I go here? Mayor, again, I want to say 11 and a half years ago, you made a statement on a plan that you had taking office, and every one of the things you had on your plan, you have accomplished. And now the last one, the road going through, it's come through fruition, and it's been a good term. It's been a good run. And if you do decide to stay, God bless you. If you don't, God bless you either way. And I do tell people that, the mayor is thinking about retiring and or resigning, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to miss you in that office. I really am, if you do decide to leave. But it's a pleasure working with you, and I'm not being presumptuous. I don't want to sound like it's all over, because I don't think it is. I think you still got some fight left in you. And with that, I'd like to also say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and have a safe one. And wear your mask, stay out of trouble, and stay healthy, everyone. And council, thank you for a very good year.
Thank you, Mr.
That's all I
Nanavia.
have.
Ms. Davis?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to respond, I believe it was to Mrs. Leonard's comment, or it could have been Mrs. Bolton, regarding the implicit bias training. I had been speaking with the law department over the last several months and followed up with our law director, Tim Riley. I think it was mid-November, and got a response back from our HR person, Ms. Jeannie Sowers, that the implicit bias training is moving forward. It is going to happen mid-January with the holiday coming up and a lot of folk taking vacation in terms of staff. That is the reason that it's being pushed to January. It took some time, yes, but it is happening. We just need to secure a date. So I wanted to respond to that. I also wanted to inform Ms. Leonard, I know a few people have given her updates about COVID testing, and I guess with calling the HR director would probably be the best course of action. But what I written down was that the County Board of Health has that data. You could always go to their website, but it seems like you're looking for us to have it specifically. So you're going to get that anyway. To Ms. Byro, you mentioned the website update information and working with the council president to handle that. I would like to be included on the conversation just so that I know what's happening, since I had some acts in there as well. So if you could keep me abreast of that information as well, and I will reach out to you tomorrow. I know myself and Councilman Burke had discussed it, but I didn't really know what was actually taking place. So I'd like to follow up, so I'll have clarity on that as well. I'd like to say happy holidays to everyone, no matter what you celebrate. I am praying for you and your family. Mr. Dudley, especially, please get well. I've said a prayer for everyone who has had it. Fortunately, I've not had it yet, or anyone in my immediate family. And so I just want everyone to stay as healthy as possible it seems lately as people are catching it, they're able to be home and recover, even though I hear it's really tough. So, you know, I'm just praying for you guys. Just please stay very healthy and strong. If there's anything you need, I'm willing to drop a care package off only on the porch. But just let me know and I will absolutely do that for you. Since we're not having a meeting on Monday, November 28th, which is my son's 23rd birthday, I want to wish Anthony a happy 23rd birthday. He will be home for Christmas. I'm really excited about that because he did not come home for Thanksgiving, and it's been about 7 months since I've seen him due to COVID. So it'll be nice to have him home from New York. He needs to be with his mom, and I need to be with my son. Additionally, I would like to thank everyone in the community for all of your comments and everything that you shared tonight. I am listening and I'm trying to be very intentful when I listen. In response to some residents calling in and making statements that I don't necessarily agree with, to be perfectly honest and transparent, sometimes it gets a little exhausting to even respond to certain things. And I'm not sure what the perfect response is. As a Black woman, I don't have all the answers for race. I don't think anyone does, but I am trying to do as much work as possible as a council member in this community to help us move the city forward to try to, you know, change some things. At the end of the day, I cannot change the hearts of people. I'm only hoping that the small impact that I make will impact someone's mind to think a little different and be a little different. We're all human and we all deserve the same exact opportunities. Though we know we don't all get them, we do deserve that. And that is what I'm striving for. So I apologize for not giving you guys what you feel you need from me as a council person responding to these things. But again, sometimes the conversations just get a little exhausting and I don't know what the right thing is to say. And I can't change people's hearts. I am also hosting a holiday meal for Christmas Eve, which is December 24th at 5 p.m. for seniors 65 and up. So far, we have 42 residents signed up. We have a total of 75 slots. It's myself, Mr. and Mrs. Gibson, who are both business owners and residents of Ward 4, who are donating their time and money to create the meals. And they also have a baker who's baking sweet treats to go out. The flyer has been emailed out. I'm going to send it to Pat Salemi to see if she can send it out citywide. It looks like it's going to be a very nice thing to deliver to any seniors who are 65 and up and who are in isolation and won't be able to be with their family. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to do that. And with that, you have my report. I wish everyone a wonderful holiday and a blessed 2021. I cannot wait to get out of 2020, although there have been some positive things that have, you know, transpired because of it. It is still very tough, and I think we all need a break. That does not mean that 2020 is going to be much better, but it will definitely be a change. So God bless everyone. Have a wonderful night, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilwoman Davis. Councilman Blake?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to wish Councilman Dudley well. As some people know, I'm also coming out of having COVID-19, and it was a brutal experience. I just ask that anybody who's listening, please continue to take the precautions and things like that. Wear your mask, sanitize. It was not a fun experience, and I'm finally able to go away from isolating. That being said, as we won't be meeting for the second part of December, I'd like to wish everybody and their family a safe and a merry, safe Christmas and happy holiday moving forward. And in response to some of the comments that were made in regards to comments that a resident made at the last meeting, you know, I did not disagree with I did not agree with those comments, but I would like to say I needed to do a better job addressing things like that when they happen, and I will work on doing so. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Blake. I guess first thing I'd like to do is to address what Mr. Fruits had to say about the difference between the last council meeting and this council meeting and what I had done at the last meeting. I have a reputation of being a fair person. I have a reputation of being a person that's a voice of reason. And believe you me, I mean, when we had that caucus meeting back on November 23rd, I did come straight out and ask the mayor, if we change the language, will you sign this piece of legislation? And he indicated that he would. So that's the reason why I made the amendment. Unlike tonight, where I was a little puzzled because we did have multiple meetings on this piece of legislation to address 136. And to have that same issue come up at the very last minute. However, with nobody really offering any kind of a different solution. So I asked, all I did was ask, should I make a motion? Should we make a motion to put it back in legislative committee? And to judge the way that I've been judged tonight is kind of, you know, surprising to me, because I'm just trying to be the voice of reason. I'm just trying to do my job as a legislator and make sure that people are heard and things get addressed, and that everybody's opinion and everybody's concerns are addressed. You know, this job is not easy and people do get offended, you know, but it's really, really difficult to do the job when people who tell you, I have information that I could give you, but it never gets to us, you know? And so we don't take, you know, we have to try to take what we get from people and turn it into something of substance to try to make this city work. Now, I had a very candid conversation with State Representative House after last meeting, and she was very upset. And I asked her, you know, about her, why she was so upset. She's not a resident of Garfield Heights, but I get it. She was upset with that amendment, and we talked it out. And when I posed that same question to her, she really didn't have an answer for me as to what that conversation is going to look like when the majority becomes the black and the whites are no longer the majority. You know, I've stated publicly before that I'm Asian. I'm part Asian. I feel a lot of times like that just gets, you know, swept under the rug and nobody really cares. And I don't care. I mean, I don't walk around every day saying, you know, I'm Asian, I want special treatment, or I'm Asian and I think, you know, I'm not being heard. I just simply go out, try to do the best I can, do my job. And so I hope that I address the difference for me is that there was a solution that was easy to come by on that amendment. There are members that have actually wrote that piece of legislation that said they could compromise, but then they decided not to, and it went to vote, and that's democracy in action. That's what this country was founded on, and that's the way it should be. I don't know what else to say there. As far as the comments made by Mrs. Feeney, you know, I don't agree with those comments, but we live in a free country and you can't stop people from saying what they want to say. You don't have to agree with it. But all of a sudden now it feels like if we do not condemn that person for saying what they're saying, we're doing the wrong thing. I don't know what the answer is there. I don't know that I should be condemning anybody, but if that's what everybody feels, then I'm speechless for that. I don't know what to say. She is certainly gonna make her opinions. You know, I mean, it's freedom of speech. Everybody has it. I want to also say that one of the things that, you know, I talked about with State Representative House was that, you know, we need to move forward as a legislature, as elected officials. The only way The only way we're going to change things is if we work together and lead by example. You know, if we want to sit there and argue and bicker and say things to one another that can be hurtful or try to call one another out, that's one thing. But your actions speak louder than any words you can say, you know, and I choose to lead by example. I help people. I don't expect anything in return for it. And I know a few people that are the same way. I mean, you look at what Miss Davis does sometimes, and what Mr. Donahue does in his ward with helping families. They don't do it because they want to have any kind of recognition for it. I don't think any of us does that. But you know, that's how you lead by example. You don't do it because you're worried about getting elected or reelected. You do it because you feel that it's important for the city of Garfield Heights. You do what is best for the city of Garfield Heights. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people feel that way sometimes, but that's just my opinion. You know, I am not going to change who I am. Always been the voice of reason for going on 8 years now. I mean, I've always been that voice of reason. I've always been the person to try to, you know, be fair to everybody. I'm not going to change that. That's me. Take it or leave it. It's just the way I am. I want to thank Nichelle Daniels and Ashley Thomas for inviting me and making me part of the Abundant community outreach in delivering those toys to some of those needy families. That was something that was, you know, very, very, it'll definitely leave a mark on me as a person for the rest of my days. I mean, anything you do like that is very helpful. And it's very, you cannot put a price tag on what that makes you feel like and the rewarding features of that. So I thank them dearly. I've had an opportunity to work with Miss Daniels' children, and I'll tell you what, they are awesome, awesome children. So, Mr. Dudley, you're not the only one that's raised good kids in this community. Miss Daniels has got some really good children too that she raised. So, and I'm proud to call them my friends, to be quite honest with you. Mr. Dudley, I had COVID-19. I will tell you, I know it's not fun, and I don't know what stage you're at, but I will tell you what everybody has told me. My doctor or my uncle is a cardiologist in Thailand. Thailand has the lowest mortality rate, and they also have the best recovery rate. And if I can just tell you, he said, Advil, cold and sinus, like it's candy pretty much every 4 hours, and 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 100 grams of zinc, and 15,000 units of vitamin D3, and lots of fluids. And I pray for you, brother. I pray for you that you'll make a speedy recovery, just like Mr. Blake. And last but not least, actually, I got one other thing before that. I want to say thank you to a gentleman. His name is Von Gay. He's he really stepped up for me. We have a resident in Ward 6 who had to have surgery. She had to go to a post-op surgery. That was one heck of a snowstorm. She had to go to a post-operation meeting or appointment, and she was worried she would not be able to get out of her driveway. This gentleman, I called him. He went right over there and literally took care of it. I just want to say thank you to him. I know he is a guy that's around town here that just plows some driveways here and there, but he did a fabulous job. I mean, for somebody who needed to respond right away, he was able to get it done. And I really, really want to say thank you to him publicly. And then last but not least, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Be safe. Happy holiday season. And let's all work together. And that's all I have. Mr. Vaughn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, I hope you're feeling better really soon. Sorry this happened to you. It'll make, but I know God will get you through it, Mike. He's standing right beside you. But Mike, I think it's great news that you have been put on the Marymount Hospital Advisory Board. I think you'll be a great asset to that board. I think you'll be able to share with them things that need to be shared, and it only good works will come out of it because you're there, Mike. You know, this whole thing with what went on last meeting, I am appalled by much conversation that goes back and forth. And as some of our other councilmen have said, I think sometimes it's very hard to respond because I just can't believe sometimes what people say. And it's something that I think we all have to work through. And I'm really hoping this summer, as we're able to mingle more and be amongst each other, that we'll be able to work a lot of these things out. Let's try that. I also want to bring up a point here about our meetings. This meeting, the council meetings are the business meeting of the city of Garfield Heights. And if you want to ask a council member their opinion on something, I think it's best if you call them up and talk to them.
Yeah.
Than to put them on the spot and expect the answer that you want. And Mr. Fruits, you can call me. I'll be more than glad to talk to you. Anytime. These are sensitive issues. And I think this is something that we have to work through, again, all of us together. Michelle Daniels called me the other day asking me if I could help, and I had to turn her down. But I got to tell you, I walked away feeling so much better after our conversation. She was more a light to me than anything, and I really appreciated that she talked to me for a few minutes, and most of all, that she listened, and I really appreciate it. And I'm, God willing, I'll be able to help you out again next year or next time around when you have something going on. On a personal note, the next few weeks, I'm going to be out on a family matter. I've asked a couple fellow councilmen to take calls for me. So if I don't get back to my residence, I apologize. If I'm not able to call you right back, I'll have one of the other councilmen do it. Please bear with me for the next few weeks. It's going to be a very tough time for my family and myself. So bear with us, please. I'd also like to, I didn't hear anybody mention this tonight, and it really surprised me. Nobody mentioned the tearing down of the buildings over at Bridgeview. Everybody stay tuned. I think we're going to see something pop there. I'm praying to the dear Lord. But I saw the equipment over there today. Looks like they're starting to tear that one building down. So let's just hope it's something for the best to come. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We're going to have a better 2021 than what 2020 was. But most of all, I know we can't have the type of Christmases we're used to, but enjoy your family, be with your family, and most of all, have a safe New Year. Stay home where you're supposed to be. Enjoy your family. With that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vaughn.
Mr. Chairman.
Stop you real quick. I think Mr. Dudley and Ms. Davis also would like to.
Okay, then come back to me then, please.
I will. Mr. Dudley?
No, I appreciate the comment by Tom, but I need to make the correction. I'm not on the advisory board. I am actually on the board of trustees.
I'm sorry, Mike. I misunderstood. Excuse me.
No problem. Board of trustees. Thank you.
That's even better.
Congratulations, Mr. Dudley. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody.
Ms. Davis?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I know everyone is ready to go.
What happened?
What happened?
She must have clicked out somehow. I know what she had wanted to say was she wanted to also mention that her appreciation for Toys for Tots and the participation with the Abundant Love Community Outreach and 17 Foundation. She had forgot to mention that in her closing comments, and she wanted that to be mentioned. So I will just let her know that I mentioned it, and we'll go from there. Mr. Vaughn?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion, we adjourn tonight's meeting and wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.